behalf of District Governor-elect Lisa and President-elect Pamela, I'd like to offer you to their third pre-PELS session. And they, I think they've done a fantastic job of kind of doing this a little bit differently and offering some great topics. So I'm pretty much everybody has got their club name on there. That's greatly appreciated. I will ask those who don't have their camera on if you could turn your camera on as a courtesy to the presenters. With that, I'm going to have to apologize. I'm going to have to drop out for a while, but I should be back at the end. I have another Zoom I have to go to, but I'd like to turn this over to Lisa and Pamela.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ralph. I'm Lisa Norwood. I'm the district governor-elect from Finger Lakes District 7120. And my co-colleague is Pamela Grattan, the district president-elect from Central New York. And we are co-chairing multi-district PELS in March and these pre-PELS fireside chats. So tonight, we are going to be talking about passing the torch and ensuring continuity in leadership. As you know, each Rotary year brings new opportunities for service and leadership, but continuity and growth depend on how well we prepare, support, and inspire each other as we pass the torch to the next generation of club leaders. So to start us off, we have asked past District Governor Bill Gormont from District 7120 to share some thoughts on what makes leadership in Rotary unique and how a club president can lead with purpose and heart. Go for it, Bill. Give us an introduction and give us more about you.
I shall. Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you, Pamela, for asking. Yeah, PDG 2015, 2016, District 7120. And what you're leading into is notably one of the, and can be one of the best years in Rotary that you've had so far. One thing to remember through this whole process is that Rotary is not a spectator sport. You know, it's not something you watch. It's something that you really need to be engaged with. And if you, as the president, the lead, people watch you and people will model you, your behaviors, your attitude, your attention to people when they speak, the eye contact that's necessary with their eyes so they know you're really listening. That's essential and something that can bode well for you through this whole process. One thing to remember, another thing to remember is that you're leading volunteers, people who have been committee chairs that have served in other chair roles, perhaps as secretary within your clubs. You know, that's one thing to serve in that capacity, but to actually be the leader of the club as president, to understand that you're leading volunteers, their payment is the intrinsic value that they receive by attending these meetings, by having conversations with you, by being able to model those things, those leadership skill sets that you have, notably because you were asked if you would serve in this capacity, you said yes. And when you have those skills you can share, that's a very good thing. If you don't have certain skills that you know you you wish you had that would make you a better leader, you have your assistant governors to reach out to. You have your colleagues, your peers that are on this call and the ones that have been on other calls with you. They may not be here tonight. They'll probably be here tomorrow at lunchtime. But you know, use their expertise. They are there. I don't know anybody. I don't think there's ever been a time in Rotary when I've asked the question trying to either validate a thought I had or giving me information that I was searching for. No one ever to date has said, well, you know, not now. I don't want to give you that. They might say not now, but I can be in touch with you tomorrow. I'd love to be able to share that. So, you know, please don't hesitate to reach out to people. I think that's incredibly important. the leadership roles that I've had throughout my career within Rotary and even outside Rotary when I was in my corporate life is a leadership model that I'd like to share with you tonight, and it works so incredibly well that I do believe it's worth you considering uh, to 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 think about using this as you serve in your club president's role. And if for those of you that have been led by someone that you really learn from, I think you can probably say that you trusted that individual. When he or she said they were going to do something and they did it, you knew that the next time they say they were going to do something, they did it. And so for you to be able to develop true trust by letting people know that you really care, by recognizing their achievements, their participation, by recognizing the sweat equity that they've poured into a service project or a fundraiser, or by in some cases challenging others in a positive way to be able to squeeze out from those conversations perhaps alternate ways, not to say, I hear what you've said, but rather for that to be, I've heard what you say, and here's how I look at that. Is there a way that we can combine those together? You see, when you acknowledge people's input, their suggestions, their thoughts, their head shakes or their head shakes, when you can acknowledge that and squeeze out of that conversation by their presence in the room and how they're sitting listening to you or not. Boy, when you can read a room and you pay attention to that, people know that you are listening and they can begin to trust you. So that's the first step, is to develop true trust. The next is to help by working with your club leaders, your club members rather, to develop a crystal clear vision of where you think your club would like to go over this next year. You know, the president's position is the most important position in Rotary. It's the club president. You know, people say, well, it's the governor. You know what? The governor gives a lot of opportunities, will share information and leadership skill sets from the RI president, and it rolls down to you. But the implementer, where the work really happens, the sweat occurs, that's at the club. And so if you can work with your club members to develop a vision that is really crystal clear, not foggy, not foggy, not fuzzy, geez, not foggy or fuzzy, but something that's really clear that you see as if it's almost real. When people can see that, they can better understand that. There's fewer questions about it, and it gives them an opportunity to hop on that vision with you. When they do, what they have done is they have begun to share that vision with you and with other club members. When you're trying to create something new, perhaps your club has an opportunity for improving something, you know, that's a change. If you're going to improve something, that change occurs. And if somebody doesn't get on board right away, it's easy to look at that individual who's slow to react to say, well, they don't care about the club. You know, they don't give two hoots about it. And so, you know, they're a bad person. We're going to leave them behind. The possibility is, and it's very real, that they might not understand where you're going. You know, they didn't understand that vision. Oh, it was clear to 98% of your club, but what about the other 2%? Those that aren't moving to make your club better, that aren't engaging as much as you'd like, go sit down with them, man. Have coffee, have tea, go before a meeting, go after a meeting, but visit, go to Starbucks or someplace and sit down and chat so that you can better understand where they are. You know what you've done there? You've developed some trust with them in that they know you care about them and that you want to learn a little bit more about that. So you've developed true trust. You've developed this crystal clear vision that is your club's vision with your club members' input. Now you've begun to inspire that movement forward with a shared vision that people can embrace, you know, and that becomes even richer when you understand, when you can help them understand how they benefit from their engagement in whatever it is your club's working through. You see, when people know that their skill sets are of value and you are asking them to share and to help with what they know how to do. If you have somebody who says, I'd like to participate, but I don't really know how to do that, what a learning opportunity to help educate those people so that they can be of greater value to your club in future projects, in future fundraisers, in future leadership. You're developing leaders through this whole thing. Because remember, again, people are watching you. Now, these things that I've talked about and other segments that you've had throughout this pre-PELS, people have shared, and I know you're all making note either in your mind or on paper, on your device, and you're probably thinking, man, that's a lot. You can't just write it down. You actually have to do it, which requires practice. So I have 4 P's that I like to use when I'm working on something and I'm trying to achieve a change. And the first is practice. The second is patience. The third is persistence. And the last one's passion. We'll start with practice. If you want to do something and get good at it, you got to practice it. You can't just write it down and say, yep, great idea. I'll get to that when I can. If it's worth doing, then you need to practice it. And if it's worth doing, you need to have a little patience because that's not going to happen automatically, instantly. It's probably going to take a little time. The third of those P's, practice patience and now persistence. If it's worth doing well, not just to have patience to let it mature and grow into something that's valuable, but to understand that if you dig into it and you do it a little more each time that you're with your club, you are persisting. They begin to see that, they begin to see the pattern, and all of a sudden it becomes sort of the normal way, the new normal way to do things. So if you take practice, patience, persistence, let's assume and just assign 10 percentage points each to that. Where's the other 70%? It's passion. It's how you walk into the room. You're alive when you walk into the room. You've got a smile on your face. Most of leadership, a lot of that, probably 60, 70, 80%, depending upon which book you read, it's about the physical part of the communication. It's not the words you say, but it's how you act, how you are. If you have passion and you get really excited about something, it's hard for people not to get excited with you. So it's kind of important, I think, to take a look at whatever you want to change, whatever you want to learn, whatever you want to get better with, to learn to practice, to have some patience with it. Don't give up immediately. Be persistent to see if it really is going to take root and grow. And then the last piece to that is passion. Have passion about what you do. And if you have passion, others will as well. If you don't have passion, if you cast it off as just another thing, another event of the month, that will become another event of the month. People will not trust you so much the next time you say, let's try this. I think it's going to be good for the club. They might not get on board with that. Just a little overall thoughts in terms of leadership. And I'll close with this acronym that I think all of you have heard me say one time or another over the past 10 or 15 years is JET, J-E-T. If you take nothing else away, guys, write that down. That can be one of your best elevator speeches. What's Rotary? You're a Rotarian? What is that? Jet, baby, jet. And they're going, jet? Are you nuts? What have you been drinking? What are you on? I says, I'm not on anything. I'm on a high because I love Rotary. Jet. J, join leaders. E, exchange ideas. And T, take action. That's what we do as Rotarians. That's what you can do by developing leadership in your club is to join leaders together, exchange ideas, begin to take action. If you do that within your club, well, let's start with if you do that within your board and then let that roll over into your club, the output of that is going to roll into your community. And if all 42 or 45,000 clubs to include Rotaractors and Rotary clubs and in over 200 countries in 80 different languages, if everybody did that, can you imagine the value that we would bring to the world? Oh my gosh. I could talk about this forever, but I'm going to stop right now. And if you have questions, love to answer them. I know Lisa and Pamela have an agenda they want to go through tonight with some questions that all of us can probably contribute to. So I'm going to turn it back over to Pamela and Lisa and let you guys take it from there. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Bill. Rick, I see your hand up. Does that mean you have a question or you just want to say hi? You're muted.
I just want to acknowledge him and thank him. That's all. That was
Oh,
all.
perfect.
Thanks, Rick.
Two
Appreciate that.
thumbs up. I second that. And Bill, I really appreciate your taking time to share your thoughts with us. Jet ought to be the motto of these fireside chats, because when Pamela and I envisioned them, we wanted to get all the president-elects together, join leaders. We wanted to have them come together and share ideas, which is what we're going to be doing tonight, and then to leave and take action. So I think we may start calling these sessions, instead of fireside chat, the jet sessions.
I
And
love
if,
it.
yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We're trying it. If it doesn't work, we'll be out of here in another year. But I appreciate everybody being on tonight. One of the hopes that we have is that the DGEs, not the DGEs, the president-elects will begin to think of us as classmates. We're all class of 2027. We're all going to be president-elects, or in Pamela, in my case, district governors, or we are district governor-elects. Next year, we'll be a team. And we'd like to be able to draw upon the experience of everybody that's in the room, first-time presidents, encore presidents, assistant governors. Everybody has a role in making our districts be successful and exciting. And everybody's going to bring their passion to the table, whether they like it or not. So practice, patience, persistence, and passion are the things to remember, at least for tonight. The second thing I forgot to mention is we actually created a worksheet for folks attending this chat tonight and tomorrow. I put the link in the chat if you want to download it. It's just a tool that we thought might be useful to you as president-elects to begin to gather some of the thoughts and ideas that we're sharing with you over the next couple of months. So now that we have heard from Bill, we're going to actually hear from our panelists. We have two panelists, in addition to Bill, who are going to share lessons learned about leadership transitions, supporting future leaders, and keeping your club's goals aligned with Rotary's action plan. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves, their Rotary Club, and briefly share why you were invited to be part of this conversation. For example, your leadership experience as a past president, assistant governor, or past district governor. So first we have Kirk Vanderbilt, and then our second panelist is Fred Daniels. So I think I'm going to start with, let's start with Fred. Why don't you introduce yourself and explain who you are and why we asked you to be on this panel?
Well, good evening, everybody. It's great to be asked to participate in the panel, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm a past district governor for District 7190, now part of the CNY Rotary team. And I've done some work over the years in Rotary with leadership development. And so I suspect that's why perhaps I was contacted to see if I would participate in this discussion. I loved everything Bill was talking about there, but I want to put a particular spin on it, get people to think about it a little bit. As they get ready to head on into their club as the president, I think that we all should look at every single member of our club as a leader. They are leaders somewhere, somehow. They are already leaders of their families, at some function in their office, in their Rotary Club, because they have a passion for something about Rotary. And your job as the president of your club is to figure out, as you look in each person's eyes, what is that leader saying to you? What is that leader presenting for his or her special talent? It's an opportunity for you to have a conversation with them about. So just give that some thought as you consider it, because every single member of your club is a leader already. They may not know it, or they may be jaded about it. But nevertheless, there's something in there on a leadership basis that they can offer you in your president's year, and by extension, then offer your club.
Perfect. Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, no problem.
Kirk?
Lisa, hi, I'm Kirk Vanderbilt. I'm from the Avon Rotary Club, 7120. I'm a past president of my club and a past AG here in the district. I'm
Can you explain what an
actually in
AG is?
line to become an encore president again in a couple of years. So I suspect I was asked, oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, can you explain what an
Yes, ma'am.
AG is, just in case?
Oh, assistant governor. I represented 4 or 5 of my clubs, local clubs in our area. Tried to be a resource to those clubs, whether it be through the district. And I tried to be a resource for them, whether it be through foundation or Club Central, fun things like that. And it was just an opportunity for me to, share my passion for Rotary, of course, and just, it's all about the people at that point for me, and meeting people, being out there in the other clubs and forming relationships and networking for me. And so I had a lot of fun doing that. And I suspect the reason I was asked to help with this particular session is that I feel that our club has been very successful over the years in a continuity of leadership model that I feel works very well. And I'm pretty passionate about trying to um, share that with other president-elects and the clubs that are struggling with some of those details. So I just have a few thoughts and ideas about that. So when the time comes, I'll try to give some of those ideas and hopefully give you guys something that you can bring back to your clubs that might, really spark something, fun and interesting and impactful.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all, including Bill, who already introduced himself. Now that we know a bit about your backgrounds, let's dive into tonight's topic. How will we pass the torch effectively from one Rotary leader to the next? Let's start at the beginning with the handoff. Every year, every Rotary year is a relay, and how we pass the baton determines how strong the next lap will be. Kirk, when you think about leadership transition, what does a smooth handoff look like in the Avon Club?
I think that smooth handoff is part of the person you're handing that baton off to is not in their very first race. Maybe to carry that analogy through. My whole model, or our whole model, is really based on a continuity model where we do not hand off a baton to a brand new president who has not been involved in leadership in the club already. So, that the way our model works is that our president-elect has been on our board for at least 3 or 4 years already before they become the president-elect. So handing over that baton is not handing it over to someone who's never run before. they've been waiting for the baton for 3 years. So they're ready to go when they get that baton. So I think that's sort of how I envision that.
I'd like to follow on that a little bit if Kirk's done, and I don't,
Sure.
Lisa, I want to go forward with whatever your process is, but my club, Schenectady Rotary Club, is about 50 members, 25 to 27 very active ones, and about half of them are sort of more in the background a little bit. But we have 3 leadership positions up to the point where someone takes on the presidency. They're obviously the president-elect and also then the vice president when they're first asked to be president of the clubs. And we asked the vice president to oversee and work closely on the membership issues associated with the club. And we asked the president-elect to oversee and work closely with the fundraising issues associated with the club. And service goes also with that. So that by the time they're the president, 3 years into that process, they already have some hands-on, keen insight into those critical functions associated with the club. which means that they're in a much better position to help oversee, together with the board, what those two committees, critical committees, are doing, both membership and also fundraising/service. It's a little tricky because what we're also recognizing is we want to bring leaders on who are younger professionals still in the peak of their career. Somebody young like Kirk apparently is young. But anyway, in the peak of their career,
Okay.
this is an additional responsibility for them to take on. And so it becomes an impediment to their thinking seriously about taking this 3-year journey to be a leader. So what we've recently done is establish co-chairs for the membership and co-chairs for the fundraising service side. And the benefit there is that that's continuity because that co-chair would serve a 3-year term as the co-chair of membership and a 3-year term as the co-chair of fundraising. So you get continuity of mission and purpose and the strategy associated with each of those areas. And you're also in a position to mentor closely that president as he or she steps into the vice president's role, then the president-elect's role, and then ultimately the president's role. And so that's working pretty well. And I've spread this to a number of other clubs. It's a big club concept, not so doesn't work quite so well in a smaller club. But nevertheless, it helps to address the leadership development piece and also the continuity of the vision and the strategies that have been adopted by the board in a planning session that might be 3-4 years old by the time you're into that.
Perfect. Thank you for those suggestions. Bill, do you have anything to add? And I noticed that when you introduced yourself, I don't think you told us what club you belong to.
I did not. I was going to wait until I got this opportunity here. Yeah, I'm going to talk about my Greece Rotary Club involvement. For over 2 decades, I was a member of a brick and mortar club. And because of my schedule, I am deeply involved with Rotary out of one Rotary Center in Chicago, and that's done virtually for the most part, but also at the zone level. And I do a lot of trainings. My bottom line to all this is that I wasn't able to get to many of my Greece Rotary Club meetings, so I've recently changed membership into an E Club, which is the Rotary Club of International Service, impacting women and children, which gives me an opportunity now because we meet early in the mornings, and depending upon where I am, Salt Lake City or Minneapolis or wherever, I can tune in so I can be part of that club. But I'm going to go back to my 2 decades plus in the Greece Rotary Club. I love what Kirk and also what Fred was able to bring to the table. I believe in all of those, and I'd like to add to that to have the president-elect, and the president, or as we in the Greece Club call them, the vice president, have those three people and the immediate past president, and as soon as you have a president, vice president, or a nominee designate, however you want to call that, you can have 4 to 5 people as a team moving forward. I said that earlier that Rotary is not a spectator sport. It's not Bill's year and Lisa's year and Fred's year. It's our Rotary Club's year. And the person who sits in the top seat as president is simply leading the club. Now, how that club is led, if you have the president or president-elect, the vice president or president nominee, however you want to call them, if you have them involved in conversations on a monthly basis, you have continuity. And when June 30th rolls over onto July 1st, the club is still moving in that direction of that, whatever that vision is. It's not an abrupt change. It's simply more of the same. Yeah, you have a different voice up at the panel, but for 3 years, as you walked up from the vice presidency to the president-elect to now sitting in the president, and then listening from the person who was in front of you as the immediate past president, it gives you continuity. it's like, and all of us, I think, realize that Rotary, to turn a Rotary thought around, it's like trying to turn a battleship around in many cases. It takes time. And this gives you 3 years to develop and to be able to test with your presidents during these monthly meetings, and in some cases, every 2 week meetings if something important is coming up, to make sure that you have that continuity. So again, love what Kirk said, right on board with what Fred said, and I'd like to add to that the possibility and to recommend that the president's track, I'll call it, lead together with their voices being heard from the president. And the president let everybody know that this has been a group initiative, that your leadership team, in concert with your committee chairs, don't forget about them because they're important. They're leaders too. All that together, I believe, can propel this thing forward in a way that there isn't an abrupt shift once July 1 comes.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Before we get off the topic of leadership transition, do any of you have one piece of information or resource that you either wish you had before stepping into your presidential role, or that you would suggest president-elects look into availing themselves of between now and July 1st when they take over as club president?
I feel if you have not met with your perceived leadership team like we're talking about, and like in our situation, we have our immediate past president, we have our president, we have president-elect, and then we call senior director, junior director. So we have quite a few steps. And if you have not started a strategic plan or this action process, this is a perfect time to start doing that. And give yourself some small, incremental, achievable goals as a group and get started right away. And you'll see how this, hopefully this will move you right through. And if you can start that now, then starting July 1st, you'll bring that new team member on, presumably, because you'll have that next person in line will join your board, and your immediate past president will go off. You'll bring in this new voice, new vision, and you'll move forward together. So if you have not at least given thought to this like team of people, and if you don't have that team of people, start thinking about who you see as the future leaders of your club, and immediately get them on board with this action planning, because we've already found it very useful in our club, using a survey, doing the whole process. And it really reignites some passion in people and reignites some enthusiasm when you know that you have several people like on board with the same vision moving forward. So definitely try to do some version of that before you start your year, for sure.
And I would second that, Kirk. When I took over as president of my club was just 4 years old. So we were making stuff up as we went along.
Yeah.
And I would say the biggest thing from my year before I took over was to meet regularly with the immediate president and the immediate past president and myself, just so I understood the history of what was going on. So even if your club doesn't have a 2 or 3 year succession plan, start with what you have now and take the bull by the horns and schedule something.
Yep.
Fred, I see your mute is off. Did you want to add to that, or should we move on?
No, I'd love to add to that a little bit. I think that there's a second constituency that also is important to cultivate out there. As you head into your president's year, you know who the committee chairs are, you know who's on the board and all that. And again, I'm sorry that my experience has been more large club experience than small club experience, but nevertheless, there's ways to translate what I'm about to say. You're going to look at your committee chairs and your board members, and some of them you'll know very well, and they're friends and they're trusted colleagues in your Rotary experience. But a number of them you really won't know. You don't know all that well, and maybe even you've observed as you come up that, oh boy, I hope I don't have trouble working with this person, or how am I going to motivate this person in a way that serves my interests when I just don't know quite how to do it. I often encourage president-elects to look around to the other members of their club and identify another 2 or 3 people, and I encourage them to identify newer members among the 2 or 3 additional folks. And I sort of characterize these folks as being their kitchen cabinet, the president-elect's kitchen cabinet, different from the board, different from the committee chairs, all right, in addition to that, because sometimes you get in a situation where, boy, you'd really like some advice, but you don't want to ask for that advice from all the committee chairs and all the board members. You want to get some some clear and honest, straightforward advice, and to have established this little kitchen cabinet that can include some of the existing leaders, but maybe include a few others, gives you an opportunity to turn to a constituency and ask a harder question that you maybe don't want to ask in some other way. And the reason I encourage a couple of newer members to be in there is that this can end up being a primary mentoring opportunity for those newer members. They will see what goes on in the dynamics of leading the club, and that just helps them to envision themselves in that role of leading the club downstream.
I love it. Thank you, Fred.
It looks
And
like
Bill, I
Norma
see-
has something.
Yeah, I see Bill has her hand raised, and I also wanted to let people know that as you have ideas or questions, feel free to pitch in. We don't all have the answers, and many of you have ideas and suggestions, so toss them in as we're asking these questions. Bill and then Norma.
Yeah, I just want to add to Fred's kitchen cabinet. I want to put the board of directors in there too. You know, in many cases, I believe that when you get into the leadership role at the high level of the president's track, you believe that you get a chance to make all the decisions and to make a plan forward for the club. But the board of directors, you should do all of your planning congruent with the board of directors and have them intimately involved in all this. I see some clubs where that doesn't happen. And toward that end, if you see somebody with leadership potential, as Fred talked about mentoring them, when you have a brand new board member in our board in Greece, we had a 3-year term on that. When somebody walks in for the very first meeting of the very first year, they're usually pretty quiet, you know, unless they're a super type A. But if you invite your club members to be able to come to board meetings, let them know that, you know what, this is not just for the board of directors. You, as a rank and file club member, you can come to this, see how our club leadership works. If you do that, I think it provides a feeder for people to say, hey, you know what, I might like to put my name on the ballot to try to become a director of the club, so that when he or she gets there, they can better connect, bring their leadership skills and their thoughts so that they can communicate and share a little better, a little more quickly, so you can get them into the path even sooner. So,
Thank you. Norma?
I just want to add, when Bill talked about creating your vision, Kirk talked about creating your plan, I would like to suggest something about creating your timelines. Look at using the reverse calendar. Here is your vision. Now, how do you go about that? Backtrack and list the things that you need to do now so that as you go to your mission, you are ready. So that's one thing that I would like to suggest, create a timeline or a reverse calendar.
These are really,
Thank
really
you.
great suggestions. Anyone have questions or other things to add before we move on to the next round of questions? I will take that as a no. So no matter how much you prepare, the first couple months as a president will always bring surprises. Let's talk about the surprises that our panelists have faced during their early time as presidents. First 3 months often shape how the years go. What surprised you the most during your first few months as club president? Fred.
So maybe it didn't surprise me, but I didn't know what to do about it. Summer in upstate New York is a glorious time to be doing anything other than what you ought to be doing. And so I found that I mean, folks would come to the meeting, but they didn't want to engage. They wanted to enjoy their summer, and it wasn't really. I wasn't prepared for that premise. I hadn't really ramped up in a way. And in point of fact, I ultimately developed and have used in prior presentations a 16-month planning calendar that really gets at the issue of how to address the fact that people are totally distracted during the summertime because they're traveling, they got their kids, and, all kinds of stuff is going on. And so that was a surprise for me because, of course, I wanted to hit the ground running and there was nobody running with me. So come September, they were all there, ready to run. Let's run. We're ready. Let's go. But in the first couple of months, I wasn't. That was a surprise. That was a curveball.
That's really good. I know that we have a couple of Encore presidents on the call. Do any of you want to talk about your first 3 months, the first time you were president, or even some assistant governors, so we can hear from different voices?
I can say something. This is Janelle in Syracuse inner city. Yeah, I'm not even 6 months into my presidency. But we started really revamping our club before my presidency started. So that really helped. There's a couple snags and challenges, but you get through them. Just make sure you got that kitchen cabinet of supporters. I'd say try not to do it all on your own because it's going to become so much easier if you have a couple other powerhouse members by your side helping you through the revampage. I had a treasurer resign. I had a secretary that couldn't do the tasks. I had what else did I have? A lot of older members are kind of stepping back and taking hiatuses. So, but the challenges you get through them, just make sure you have a good team by your side.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, I didn't hear someone raise their hand. So as we move on to what you guys need for leadership success, it's not too early to start thinking about preparing for the team that comes behind you. So as you think about building the next wave of engaged leaders, what does your club do to encourage and prepare future leaders? And it's okay if you don't know or they don't do anything, but I want to begin to plant that seed that you as an incoming president should be thinking about your successors. How about Bill? Let's have you. Okay, Rick, yes, go for it, Rick.
If I may comment, we have those who know New Hartford as a great Rotary Club, but we have a lot of mature members and we don't have any follow-ups. And so the big issue now is expanding this out to the community. And there are some avenues in which we can do that. And so we're going to, and I've already started, I'm not the president yet, but I've already started going now so that when I become president, I'm going to have to pull my hair out. So, some of the things I wanted to do is, I lost you, Rotary Moment, and put that on a picture with the comments from the individuals and talk about, on Facebook or whatever have you, to expand outside the community. And so that to me is hopefully will enhance as one way to hopefully attract other members. Okay. So that's just one thing. There are a couple of other things I want to do, and I do have the support of the board and the club. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. So that's it.
Perfect. When you say expand into the community, what do you mean by that?
Well, public relations.
Okay.
We provide money to organizations. Why not use a large check like everyone else does? Go to the organization that we're presenting the money to, take pictures, and see if we can get it into the no local newspaper, but if not, put it on our Facebook or put it on our website, whatever the case may be, just to get as much publicity as we possibly can. And I don't think this has ever been done in some time. So now we're up against that where we worried about potential new members being attracted to our club.
Perfect. And I think that's a good segue to broadcast that next month, our fireside chat is going to revolve around public image. So I hope you'll come back and share these thoughts and get some, ideas as well moving forward, because we're all struggling with how do we
Shall do.
recruit new members, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Anybody else want to add what they've been doing or thinking about in terms of succession planning? Yes, David.
Part of this full disclosure, I learned at a breakout session in Calgary.
Oh, good.
I was before when I was president before in the past, it was for several years in a row. And when I finally got somebody to take over for me, it was someone who came from another club and was a Rotarian for 20 years. I'm like, great, this guy's got this, right? But since then, there's been a couple other presidents, and I'm talking about mentoring someone into taking your place, stepping in, especially running meetings. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So the long and the short of it is that at meetings now, or last year and continuing in this year, the morale is in the club is going down because the meetings aren't being run very well, and the person weren't coached, and it started with me. And next year it's going to end with me. Actually, it's beginning this year. I'm going to work with our present president in a transition. So, when my year's done, I'm going to work with the incoming president to help them lead the club better, especially during meetings, which is in a lot. Well, I have a small club, 18-person club, but in a lot of clubs, that's what the president does. They run the board meeting and the meeting. Ostensibly, that's what they're supposed to do. So anyway, I'm rambling, but if anybody has any questions about what I just said, so I can clarify it for them, I'll do that.
So basically, you're a small club struggling with succession planning and making sure that there's follow through with the presidents moving on. Thoughts? I see Fred has his hand up, but any thoughts that people might want to refer to Dave? Yeah, Kirk, and then I'll take Fred.
I think David's situation is a perfect example of why, being a small club, of course, but if you could envision a group of people within the club that you could see moving into those leadership positions, including president, those are the folks that you want to engage in this sort of long vision planning, and get them in a room together on a weekend when you're not looking at your watches saying, we started this meeting, we got to be out of here by 8. Give yourself some time and kind of go through a visioning board process where you say, what's going right with our club, what's going wrong with our club. And if you think that the meetings are, the way the meetings are run are a problem, like put out a plan to improve it, and have those people in the room with you that you're all on the same, on the same board or on the same wavelength. And then maybe they won't be as scared about jumping into a leadership position if they know there's a long-term vision and there's continuity coming up. Maybe that's just a great way to encourage some of these other members to get involved with that leadership by saying, come help us develop a new vision for this, and what do you want to do to make this better. And then now you've kind of got a group of people together that are moving through together, and they'll become your next leaders. So you're not struggling to find these new presidents every year. I see it out our way as well. It's like whoever shows up to the last meeting before the election, or who was absent, gets nominated for president, or one of these silly things. But I think if you give people that opportunity to be part of that vision, that they become your future leaders.
Yeah, good advice, and it takes work and it takes time, but that's why we're doing these fireside chats now, so we can plant these seeds and start doing the work. Fred, I know you've had your hand up for quite a while, and I would like to also ask you to talk a little bit about the club satisfaction survey that you do in your district.
Well, just by way of follow-up on finding leaders, identifying the future leaders, one of the things that I do think is useful for a new president to do, or even during the president-elect year, is to start attending committee meetings even though you're not on the committee. As the president, you certainly can attend any meeting you choose to attend. And of course, it's a time commitment. I totally get that. But you're there for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's great that you are attending the meeting that your committee chair is calling, and that committee chair will like that you're there. It also will make sure they'll feel like they need to be on their game and be nice and sharp and all that. But what I look for is who is really engaged and participating in the discussion about whatever is happening at the committee meeting. That's the person who is the next prospective leader for you. It's not always the committee chair, and it's not always the most mature Rotarian either. The one with interesting questions as well as interesting observations. That's someone to think and identify and potentially mentor just a little bit. And Todd Jenkins, who has done a number of sessions with Rotarians and districts and district conferences and so on and so forth, he had this thing that really stuck with me. When you're engaging in a discussion with someone, you always have an immediate thought about whatever they're saying to you. And do not act on your immediate thought. Instead, say, tell me more, because it allows you to move to your second thought. And oftentimes your second thought is much more constructive and more reflective of the conversation you're having with the person than the first thought you had as they were talking. Because almost always they're not even done with their sentence or their statement before you've got your own conclusion. And to pause on that first thought and move to the second thought somehow or another. So then you wanted me to talk about the member satisfaction survey. Yeah, so RI did develop, years ago, a member satisfaction survey, and you can find it on the RI website in the membership section there, and it's a member satisfaction survey. It is administered through Google Forms. So you would have to, you'll click on the link, you'll get a PDF that'll tell you all about how to access the member satisfaction survey. It's an anonymous survey, so you don't know who submitted it back to you, but it has, as part of the package, an analysis form. And I just completed this for Janelle and Syracuse Intercity Rotary Club. So it helps to assess and evaluate everything about the club experience, including the quality of the meeting, whether the perception is that new members are well valued, or that I feel like I can express my ideas, or the dues are about right or too high or too low. All of that stuff, you get that information back. And so I would encourage you to go there, look at the survey. You can turn to your membership chair in your district to get him or her to administer it, so you don't have to administer it. And then it goes out as a link to your members. They fill it out, they send it back. Then Google Forms does the data analysis and makes some pretty charts. And you could get them organized into PowerPoints as well as PDFs for emailing. So it's useful.
Thank you. Go for it.
Right now we're planning on Jerry Gortner's. Thank God for him. We're going to do ours in January to precede the presidency, so that we know going in essentially where we're at with everyone in the club. So I'm very fortunate we have Jerry, because he's on top of everything. So at any rate, but I think it's a great idea, and I can hardly wait for the results. So anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fred. If you have a chance, could you put the link to that in the chat? And then Bill, I know you've had your hand up for quite a while.
Yeah, thanks. The to David's point, as he was talking about the club, and if you have issues that you see that are starting, and you'd like to kind of nip it in the bud, so to speak, whatever that case might be, and we've talked about a number of things already this evening, and I want to bring up the Learning Center. The Learning Center gives you a wealth of information that you can use if you see something going on within your club and you'd like to correct that. Go to the Learning Center. It's becoming more and more user friendly in that you can type in a topic. It will give you recommendations for that. Or you can contact, other people like your Norma from our learning leader within our 7120 district. But use the Learning Center to do a little background research and find out what some of the opportunities are there that you may be able to take advantage of. Now you can go to the Learning Center and that will teach you what help expose to you those things, what you might be able to use. If you go to the Rotary Leadership Institute, the RLI teaches you how to use what you learned through the Learning Center. So you have what to do, what opportunities might exist through the Learning Center, and then through RLI, you get a chance to understand how you might implement that. And I say that because what's going on tonight with people sharing ideas and adding to what the other person said, that's exactly what you get when you go to an RLI and you get a chance to learn from the colleagues that are sitting in that room. Some are small clubs, some are large clubs. It gives you an opportunity to hear yet another palette of opportunities that might just be the key to what you need right now. Again, you're not in this alone. You have a wealth of information that's available through a whole boatload of people.
Thank you so much, Bill, for plugging the Learning Center. As the president-elects know, each of these fireside chats have been preceded by recommendations from the Learning Center that will dovetail nicely with these conversations that we're having. And I just put into the chat the links to this month's Learning Center courses. So that way, when you're in there, you can begin playing around and see what other courses there are that you might want to take. So we have been talking about lots of different things. And of course, as usual, I did not get through my full agenda, but I want to make sure that each of you have gotten what you needed from this session. So what challenges and successes have you seen when it comes to leadership continuity in your clubs? And what questions might you have about leadership transition, goal setting, or continuity? Go. Open court. Nobody? You know all the answers? I'm going to pick on my friends Carrie and Judy. I know you guys are co-presidents of your club. What are you thinking about tonight's session in terms of continuity, leadership? What sort of things would you think you like to implement at Naples next year?
I love the idea of getting 1 to 2 of the newer members to kind of have in your wing, because when that was being talked about, I turned to Mom and said, oftentimes we hear, well, this is how it's always been done, and this is how it will be done. So when you have newer members, they don't always know how it's always been done. So I think that would be key.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Anyone else want to share? Don't tell me you guys are all quiet and shy. What about our assistant governors? We've got several assistant governors or area reps on the call. From your working with different Rotary clubs, what sort of advice would you give the president-elect, or what questions do you think they should be asking?
I have a little anecdote that I think I shared last month. Was a member and I asked her out of the blue. She was really busy. I didn't think that she would have time for something, but I needed, and she, you know, she's got the skill set for what we needed. And I asked her, and, you know, years later, or a year later, whatever, she said to me that she was thinking about leaving because it wasn't meeting her needs. She didn't feel like she was being helpful, or it wasn't fulfilling her. And me asking her, even though I didn't think I was going to get a yes, encouraged her to continue. And now she is, you know, stepping up, and she's, you know, a committee chair for the district. So don't be afraid to ask. If I don't leave you with anything else, even if you don't think you're going to get the answer you want, see that potential and ask, because they're just waiting for you to ask.
Good point. Good point. Kimberly, I saw you on mute. Did you want to say something?
Is my microphone working first?
Yes, it is. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. I wanted to say the one thing that I would do over, you know, when I was starting, would be to really kind of get more familiar with the tools that are out there. And Lisa, as far as like my Rotary, where do they go to get the access that they need on all the programs? Because there's a lot of different programs. Is there like one sheet that tells you everywhere that you go? My Rotary, Club Runner.
Yes, there probably is. And I will see if I can find it and send it out to folks, unless somebody else has it relatively handy. But yeah, my Rotary, Club Runner, the Rotary Learning Center.
There's so much. Yeah.
Right. So yes, there are charts that talk about that, but usually if you start with my Rotary, there's enough information there that can point you in the right direction.
And aside from that, I like what was said about starting to think now about how you can add your personal you know, missions or the things that interest you into what your club is pursuing as far as projects and initiatives. I think I didn't have enough time or forethought to think at what I really wanted to do from the club perspective. So I love that you're talking about that now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I also think I saw Kirk. Did you unmute as well?
Just a follow up to what Pam said. You know, I find that one of the things that we run into is we all have email fatigue. I think everyone would agree to that, right? So I've seen over the years, you know, many times when there's a job to be done, I've seen where a president will reach out through email to the club. We have a Google group, you know, so that it's very easy to put an email out to the entire club and say, you know, this is coming up. We're looking for a few people to help with this. If you're interested in helping, let me know. And
nobody responds.
Yeah, I think maybe often it's not because people don't want to help, but it's more, it's you know, I don't know who else is going to help or whatever. And I think what I've found is that direct ask is so much more useful. You know, just figure out who you think you want to help you with this project and give them a direct ask. And obviously, oftentimes it ends up being somebody who's already doing 10 other things. But ask somebody and say, listen, if I can get so and so to help you, will you take on this task for me or help me with this task? And it's obviously always ask new members whenever possible to get them engaged right away. But that's just some advice to the president-elects. You know, the email ask is okay, but personal asks always work better. So
good reminder. Very, very, very good reminder. Thank you, everyone. I don't think I see any other hands up. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, our speakers. Thank you, our panelists, for sharing your experiences, insights, and to all of you, the president-elects and assistant governors, for engaging in the conversation. Obviously, tonight's conversation reminded us that continuity in Rotary leadership isn't about maintaining the status quo. or doing what's always been done. It's about building trust, shaping a shared vision, and developing future leaders with, as Bill says, patience, persistence, and practice. It's built through communication and mentorship and thoughtful goal setting that ties Rotary's action plan to what we're trying to do. So as you prepare for your leadership, think about not only what you'll accomplish, but also who you'll engage in the process and how you'll set up the next leaders for success. I've put up on the screen, I've shared with you a QR code for a quick evaluation on the on tonight's fireside chat. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes just to fill it out, we would appreciate it. As a result of doing these evaluations at the end of every fireside chat, we have come up with the idea of putting together a reflection worksheet that I've already shared with you. So any thoughts, positive, negative, ways to improve this? Thoughts on how to get more of your classmates, your president-elect classmates, to attend these sessions. Taking a page out of Kirk's book, I may need to start calling all of the president-elects that aren't here tonight or tomorrow and engaging them on a personal level. So I will commit to doing that and seeing if it makes a difference. So once again, I appreciate each of you being here. Make sure that your calendars are marked for March 14th and 15th in Syracuse for our in-person President-elect Learning Seminar, where it's going to be much more hands-on, and we will actually be working with you to take away some actionable items that you can implement in your clubs as a result of what we're learning from these fireside chats. So before we close, does anyone have any last minute questions, responses, anything? Okay, if not, we will say goodbye. See you next month. And thank you very much for everything that you all do. Have a great
Thanks, Lisa.
evening.
Yep. Thank
Hey,
you.
Lisa.
Thanks,
Thank
Pamela.
you.
Hey, Lisa, I was wondering how many
Yep.
president-elects is there supposed to be in total?
Between our two districts, there are about 170-ish.
Oh, okay. This is multi-district. Oh, okay.
Multi-district. Yep, so there's 66 in 7120 and 117 in Central New York, roughly.
Oh, okay.
111.
Gotcha.
111.
Mhm.
Right. And
Wow.
we are doing 2 sessions. So tomorrow we'll have about the same number of people attending.
Yeah.
But we're really concerned about those clubs that either A, haven't elected their president-elects, or those president-elects aren't showing up or making the time for these sessions.
Yeah.
So anything you can do to help out would be greatly appreciated.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think some of the challenges is because the stuff is so high tech. I'm learning that a lot of the members don't know how to use my Rotary or Club Runner, and I'm having to teach them. I think that was one thing, but it's not that they don't know that they don't think it exists. They just don't know that like that's what they should be using to be self-sufficient.
Mhm.
The so yeah, I'm finding that I need to train them, and even I'm not fully utilizing what these programs can do, but it's just also highly technical so for some of the not as technical people that are not on computers all the time, they're not in my generation, that seems to be kind of a struggle
Drawback.
there.
Right. Is there anything that you think our districts could do to help you with that?
They're already doing it, they're having the district training assemblies. Like, I think that some of the sessions are actually pretty hands-on from when I took one for the secretary, we were right on the computers on
Mhm.
the actual programs we're going to be using. So I think that they're already doing what they need to do. Yeah, but it's just like, how do you get the people engaged to get everybody on, a Zoom call a couple nights per week, because the Zoom calls, like, let's be real, I have like 3 Zoom calls with Rotary per week. So it's just like getting like the members engaged and excited about that, but some of them aren't like that, they really want to do the work for their clubs, and they don't really understand that, hey, like the district, the zone, like they're all holding these sessions that can be engaging and helpful for them to learn more. So it doesn't make my, you know, because that's well, it's time out of our, I mean, I guess it's if you really think about it, equals out. But I think that they really like the live training. They like to sit with me. They like to do it and have me walk through the steps with them. I think they like that, rather than, I think maybe it's also not just the email fatigue, maybe it's a Zoom fatigue too. But um but yeah, it is more time on our schedules, because obviously all these people that need the training are quite busy as well with their schedules. So like getting them on the schedule, meet in person to show them. But if they can become self-sufficient and use these programs, then I don't need to do, put in so much time and energy into it. I can take a break, because my presidency starting off right now, I'm exhausted. I ended up being club president and executive secretary, but I thought it would have been okay because executive secretary was just all the computer work, but then we got all these new members in the last 8 months. So like I was like, okay, this is a lot of work. And then like I told you guys, like the secretary is not, not present. Well, they're there, but they're not going to sit down at a computer and do minutes and an agenda. So now I've been stuck doing that almost 6 months. But really prior to that, because I was secretary before July. But now I'm getting a lot of interim officer positions to fill in until the nomination period. And that's where I needed to come to this class tonight to figure out how I'm going to use. I have like 5 new, younger, vibrant members that they're technical. They can definitely get on a computer and see how I can use that to our advantage for succession going forward. So I wrote down some of the ideas y'all were talking about tonight. But and I'm just going to bounce this off you guys and see if it sticks, because I don't know if this is like right, but I have like at least 2 strong members that just joined, that are young and new Rotarians, but I know that they have what it takes. Is it weird to put them on like as a board member, even just so that they can learn more about the history of our club and more about Rotary, but just in a very much faster pace environment and not so slow? I mean, not that it's slow, but it would take them like a year. Whereas like if I put them right into something like that for the 6 months remaining, because we're building a whole new board, all our board had passed away or inactive, so on. Getting these new members on the board is just regular board members. Is that crazy?
I don't think so, but I don't have all the answers. I see Kirk raising his hand. I see Ralph raising his hand. So let's hear from other folks.
Just real quick, there's no rules that say that you can't have a new member on your board.
Amen.
I mean, I know some clubs that put a new member as president-elect. So, but what we have on our board is we have we have directors and on our board, but then we have what we call members at large.
Yes, that.
So we've adjusted our bylaws to have a spot for those types of people, whether they be new members or maybe some of our very seasoned members that have no interest in becoming, getting on that presidential track. But have a member at large and have them on the board and have them in there helping make decisions and that's a great way to get them engaged right away. And I will just say real quick, for as far as secretary and treasurer positions, one of the things that we found is that, and I know it happens in several clubs where someone will get in that position and just stay, and that's great sometimes.
Yeah.
But what we're trying right now is we're trying to make it a 2 to 3 year position, so that a secretary comes on, by the time they get up to speed on everything, and their year is over. So
Right.
I feel like 3 years is a good amount of time to be involved, and they're voting members on our board. So anyway, 3 years, and then you're not trying to turn that position over as often.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ralph?
Yeah, just to answer a couple of the things that Janelle said. First of all, as far as the technology goes and educating your members, I would strongly suggest you have a club assembly. Urge all the members to attend at that club assembly and do it in place of a regular scheduled meeting. You go through and you give a hands-on demonstration of how to log on to Club Runner, how to log on to My Rotary. You do it at a club assembly and get that information out for everybody. I'm always amazed at how often clubs don't utilize club assemblies to get things done and to get information out. You should be, at the very least, you should be having a club assembly on every quarter. We have one every month, but that's just our club. But I would really urge club assembly, bring in, and that's another way you can bring in those new members to help you with technology. They can do hands-on and help those other members who might struggle a little bit with technology learn how to log on and do everything. And I completely agree with everything that Kurt just said about there is nothing wrong with bringing a new member onto your board. It's fantastic. When I first joined Rotary, and this was back in 1991, within 6 months, I was asked to be on the board. I didn't even know, I couldn't spell Rotary at that point. But it really helped me to become a little bit educated on what the club was doing. And I think it's a great idea. We also have members at large on our boards, and it's a wonderful way to bring new members in and get them fully engaged. And that's the whole thing. You need to engage. But I urge you to do a club assembly to do that technology portion with those members that struggle with that.
And if you have someone from the district level that could actually run the session, like your district secretary, that might even be better because it A, gets you off the hook, and B, exposes your members to someone other than in your club and makes them see, the bigger Rotary, so to speak.
It could be the secretary, can be the area governor or area representative. Should be able to come in and assist with that.
And Pamela just put in the chat that Lisa Jackson from Central New York would be a great resource for you to do it for your club. Good question, Janelle. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Other things that are weighing on folks' minds? I mean, this is really more informal, but this is what we want. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys staying on for a few extra minutes. Fill out the survey so that we can make sure that we are meeting your needs. I also put in the chat, if you can put this in your evaluations, what sort of hands-on learning or activities do you want to see at PELS? We were thinking a Club Runner tutorial. We may need to do a My Rotary tutorial, but if there's things that members of your club are struggling with that you don't know the answers to, let's make sure we're meeting at least your needs at PELS in September.
We capture this chat, right, Lisa?
I am going to, yes, I'm going to save it, absolutely. And I see, Carrie, you've got a furrowed look to your brow. Does that mean you have a question or you're just sharing with your mom? Club Runner app and Rotary Club Central. So perfect. Keep these ideas coming. We are doing the best we can to put together a really, really interactive and a session that meets your needs at in-person PELS in March. So my wine glass is empty.
You all rock. Good night.
In case you noticed me earlier, my husband triggered our fire alarm and the alarm company called, and then the fire department showed up, and he was oblivious to all of this happening. So once again, I appreciate you guys putting up with me and my distractions, but this is life. This is Rotary.
You didn't
Lisa,
miss me.
don't feel
Lisa,
special. My dog got sprayed by a skunk 10 minutes before I jumped on
There
this
you
Zoom.
go. Exactly.
Direct hit.
Life
Correct
is
it.
crazy. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
That happened. Lisa's fire truck happened right in the middle of this, and she
And
didn't
so-
miss a beat.
I guess I did.
No.
Nope, not
Yep.
from our perception.
Oh
Nope,
my
nope.
God. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Enjoy life. Keep rolling with the punches. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.